Okay, our next topic is chemical properties. Now, chemical properties is another way of describing matter. So if our alien friend is even more curious as to how water can be identified, we can take the characteristics of how it reacts with other substances or doesn't react with other substances. Those are called chemical properties. So how do we know that? Well, one of the things that happens is that if you were to throw a piece of sodium, as an example, into water, a violent explosion takes place. It's actually kind of cool to watch. We don't have any sodium, so don't get any ideas in your head. But if you, we'll show you a video in class if you want to see that about a piece of sodium being used into a lake to get rid of some of the acidity in the lake, and it's pretty spectacular stuff. But anyway, a violent reaction takes place. This would signify a chemical change. So how do I know this is a chemical change? Well, when this explosion occurs, a lot of heat is given off. When you have an explosion, it's going to give off a lot of heat. The fact that a lot of heat is being created by the chemical reaction that you saw, the change in the water and the change in the sodium in the interaction of each other creates a lot of heat. So if it gets hotter or colder when they are mixed together, then a chemical property of both sodium and water occurs. That sodium explodes in water is both a chemical property of sodium and of water. Another sign would be water dissolves, another way that we can tell is that water dissolves salt. Now, there is some debate as to whether a dissolving reaction is an actual chemical reaction or just something that doesn't really change. Because if you taste salt without any water, go, that's definitely salty. If you put salt in water, stir it up and drink it, not advisable, but a little bit, take a little sip, it still tastes like salt. So it doesn't taste like anything has changed, but the fact that it disappears is a change in color. It's gone from white salt to colorless salt. And in fact, it actually bonds to the water in the particles that make up the solution. We'll talk about that later on. So, the fact that there is a change in color is another aspect of chemical change, a chemical reaction. Now, it turns out that if we had a thermometer, we would notice that there is a slight increase in temperature, not much of one, not to the point where you would actually stick your finger and go, oh, that's hot. No, it'd probably go up like 1/10 of a degree or two in Celsius or even Fahrenheit. But it is definitely part of the change of the amount of heat being given off or taken in. It can get colder and be considered a change in temperature. So, two conditions that tell us that a chemical reaction has occurred are: one, a change in the status of heat, gets hotter or colder after its encounter with another substance, and two, a change in color occurs. Now, it doesn't always change color. Heat is definitely one, but sometimes you don't feel the heat. So if you can identify one or the other, it's a good chance it's a chemical property. So you look at what substances are mixed together, and that chemical change occurs when it turns into other compounds, okay? If no reaction occurs, where the substances don't fall apart and create something else, that is a chemical property upon itself. For example, if you throw a piece of aluminum foil into water, the foil is just going to sit there and look at you like, what do you want me to do, huh? Nothing. It's not going to do anything. That is a chemical property. Aluminum does not dissolve in water, or aluminum does not react with water. Either one. It is a chemical property. So, practice problems. Give two examples of chemical properties for the following substances: ethanol, fluorine, sand, which is the compound silicon dioxide, and magnesium. And again, use your research skills and using your search engine in order to find these if you cannot come up with all the properties in this exercise, which you probably can't. So go ahead and use your vast skills as a researcher and see what you can find and give you those two chemical properties for each one.